Hello, everyone, and thank you again for downloading this week's fantabulous episode of the Got Side Hustle Show. I'm your host, Chris McPeak, and today we're going to dig into another serial entrepreneur. She is a double twofer entrepreneur. I'm talking today with Rita Perez from the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Show. Rita, my dear, thank you so much for carving time to hang out with me today.
Yay, thank you. I had so much fun the other day with you as well. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
I'm so glad. Yes, I was just recently interviewed for Rita's show, and we'll share that out when it's ready to launch, like we do when we're being good sharing podcast people. And Rita and I found each other as always. I love to give credit to Adam Schaebule from the Podcasting Business School podcast. He is a force of nature, a force to be reckoned with, and a great guy. So I always like to give Adam a shout out when I'm talking to a fellow pod pal. Rita, okay, let's just go back to the origin story kind of thing. Tell us just really a little bit about what your 9 to 5 is, and then what got you launching yourself into the travel entrepreneur world.
So my 9 to 5, I work in the theme park industry and I've worked most of my adult life in the theme park industry. It was in 2010, I took a trip to Tunisia and I was finishing my master's and I had a course on creativity that kind of like connected entrepreneurship with my love of travel, and a travel business was started. Most recently is when I did another passion project, which is the strategic travel entrepreneur, where I wanted to be a voice for other travel entrepreneurs because there were a lot of things that I have learned in the past couple years, and I wanted to just share them, like all the things I wish I knew when I first started my travel business that I know now, and that I'm trying to slowly master and get my side hustle off the ground.
So specifically, what does a person who has a air quote travel business, what do you help people do?
So my focus is on cruise ship retreats.
Okay.
I help businesses, and this is small businesses. It could be just like solo entrepreneurs who have coaching clients and they want to do like a mastermind, or this can be people who do have employees and they want to increase that retention and engagement. They want to bring them on a cruise. So those are like the two main components of how I help other people and take care of those cruise ship logistics so that you guys just have to focus on your content.
So if I wanted to pitch to my supervisor at the community college that the 7 other women that I work with, which by the way, like we all get along, and it's so strange because when did 8 women who work together always get along? But that's a sidebar. So if I pitched to my boss that the 8 of us should go
Man.
on a if I pitched to my boss that the 8 of us should go on a cruise retreat, I could email Rita Perez and say, Rita, hook me up with a cruise retreat.
Yes. Yeah. And we would just talk about what some of your goals are and how long you plan to be away. And then we can, I like to say I'm a little bit of a matchmaker when it comes to that also. I've been on over 20 cruises, so big,
Oh my
small,
God.
different types. I've seen it all.
I've never been on a cruise. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that to a travel cruise entrepreneur. It's so embarrassing. Um, but like when I was still running, I know there were runners cruises. I do know that there has been a podcast cruise. I'd be really curious for them to, or maybe they'll, try to book that through you. That would be really nice. And yeah, so my husband and I need to figure that out. We need to go on a cruise someday. It must be
Yeah. You're not the only one. I've been hearing that a lot recently.
well, nobody's been on any cruises in
I
the last year.
know.
So yeah,
I
actually that makes me how has your side hustle been impacted by that? Did you just kind of sort of lay low for a year or
It impacted it a lot. Like there really is no business now because everybody's still a little bit nervous, and cruising here in the States hasn't started yet, even though it has started worldwide. And for my full-time job, I was furloughed for 2 to 3 months, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
I tried to like really dig in, and I was like, yes, this is living the life. I get to like do full-time side hustle. This is what I've always wanted. But in June, I went ahead and I started my cruise retreat podcast to kind of like what many of us do with our podcasts is to lay authority and share a lot of knowledge and information that you might not know, because there really, if you Google like cruise ship retreat, there's not a lot of information. So I've been doing that, and I created a toolkit to help anybody who's interested in doing a cruise retreat. And then at the tail end, a couple months ago, is when I started the strategic travel entrepreneur, because I was in the space of I need to figure out how to make some sort of income. And that side gig started because I was trying to become like a semi virtual assistant in a way for
Okay.
travel entrepreneurs. So yeah, I've been hustling a lot to try to see what could stick for me.
If any of the listeners are thinking like, "Ooh, a travel entrepreneur, that's kind of a clever idea. I want to do that." So how exactly do you start a biz like that?
It really depends. So if we're going like bare bones, I would start off going to a place called Host Agency Reviews. And this is more on the travel agency side, because technically I'm a travel agent.
Okay.
Travel business can encompass like the supplier side, like those people who provide the tours and provide
Oh,
different
yeah.
lodging
Yeah.
operations as well. But specifically on to become a travel agent or a travel advisor, like is the new modern word, I would start off going to Host Agency Reviews and find a really great host agency. So technically, I'm an independent contractor for a host agency,
I see.
and that helps me like keep my autonomy so that it's my travel business. I can do what I like to do, but there's a lot of benefits being like with this larger umbrella, like larger commissions, which is one of the big draws to me, and not having to deal with too much of that licensing that we have in the travel industry, even
Yeah.
though there is some.
Yeah. So it's sort of it's an opportunity to get started, not necessarily having to, build it from the ground up. There's sort
Yeah.
of a business in a box already, and you sign up to be a contractor, and go from there.
Yeah, yep. And you get lots of training from whoever you sign up with, or you should. And that's why I say go to Host Agency Reviews, so you can check out the reviews for something that works for you.
Got it. That's very cool. Okay, so now the second side hustle and second podcast, this sort of came out of your desire to help people in the way that you had, started out, to give them the
Mhm.
tips and the tricks on how to move that along faster. And are you finding now that, at least in the States, people are getting vaccinated and a lot of places are reopening. So are you finding that you're getting a surge in that area, or are people still kind of like, well, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to launch this kind of business yet? What has that framework been like for you?
For me personally, my business has not had that surge yet because I'm primarily cruise focused. But
Oh,
there have
right.
been a lot of other agents who are getting a huge surge because a lot of people are getting their vaccinations, and more countries are gearing to ready their doors again this summer. So everybody is like, just book my trip. I have the vaccine. So, and it's really nice to see that comeback that we've been waiting for over a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, having that vaccination card is going to, be just as important as a passport, I think, moving forward.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your balance and strategizing tips. So you've got your 9 to 5, you've got side hustle number one and side hustle number two. So how do you navigate all of those things? Do you use a morning or an evening routine? What does that look like? Let's talk about a day in the life of Rita Perez.
So I wish I really had a stronger kind of like foundational routine. That's something that I'm working on. So I'm big into manifesting things to come into my life. So
Sure.
I feel like if I was to start implementing that morning routine, then I would start kind of building the life that I want to be living. So, and that would include like doing some morning yoga, meditation, taking a shower. I drink hot lemon tea every morning. I'm an autoimmune patient, so that helps the liver detox
Oh, okay.
everything. And then I get ready. I part of my morning routine right now is listening to podcasts.
Me
I
too.
kind of like feeding my mind a little bit to get in that good mindset for work.
Yeah, I like to think of it as my professional development for myself, and
Yeah.
that's imperative. So I've got, incorporate that into my morning commute. So it's usually I, do my morning news with Eric and Mandy on the Newsworthy, and then I listen to whatever, I'm needing to feed my brain in that day. So sometimes it's Adam's podcast, sometimes it's an
Mhm.
audiobook. Um I run the gamut of it all, but that's what, I'm learning now. This is how I'm
Yeah.
learning. This is how I'm making myself a better person.
Yeah.
Um, did you now are you open with your employer about your side hustle, or do you have to keep that on the DL?
In the beginning, I was very much keeping it on the DL. And then I don't know how it happened, but she is aware of it now. But I never bring it up.
Yeah.
Um, I try and keep it on the DL, but people know that that's what's going on. That's what I have on the side. So if I need to ask for a day off, hey, there's a travel thing that's going on, and she understands.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think there's a certain level of sharing that you want to do, but I also think that it depends on the relationship you have with your supervisor. I
Mhm.
was really lucky that my supervisor was encouraging of those things. Of course, if you have read my book, you know that I had an issue with doing the side hustle at the day job that came back and spanked me in the ass, but we're beyond that now, and I've, figured it all out. Actually, that whole incident was one of the reasons why I wanted to niche down in my coaching model, because
Mhm.
that was something where, okay, now I really do need to figure out how to carve my time appropriately so that I can be a good 9 to 5 employee and follow all the rules, but
Mhm.
still, like, I think it's okay if I'm sharing my business with people who happen to work where I work, as long as my work email address is not in the correspondence and I'm not
Yeah.
connecting with those people during the hours of 8 and 4:30.
Agreed.
So I haven't really hired anybody yet, or they haven't hired me. But a lot of folks that know me at my day job are aware of that. So, but I've been lucky. I've definitely had bosses that would not have looked very kindly on that. So
Mhm.
I think if you're working for a workaholic, then it's probably a
Right.
hard line. But if you're working for somebody that definitely respects work life balance and limits and things like that, it's a lot easier to be able to share that stuff. Because I don't know, do you ever find that you have skills from your day job that overlap into your side hustle and vice versa? Because I've been having that like gangbusters recently.
So I used to believe, and this is where I feel like COVID brought a lot of revelations to me.
Yes.
I do not think that I was like a very social people person. And I know that that sounds like bad. That sounds like, oh, okay, I don't want to hang around this person. But when I started going back to work, I realized that I was really thriving off of the relationships because my position is built on, I have to have a lot of relationships with a lot of different areas in the parks. And I didn't know how much I thrived off of that. And maybe that's because I was furloughed for a couple months and I didn't
Sure.
have it. But when I was starting to communicate with people, I'm like, I am really good at what I do. And I'm really good at building that like trust in other people. And that I feel I've been able to transfer those skills more, especially in this past year, networking via Zoom a lot.
Yes.
And like I took a little mini course on how to do the different networking and connect with people. But I think that is probably the most valuable skill because this is cringeworthy. I did not like networking. I
Oh my
hate
God.
networking because I consider myself an introvert, but probably I'm more ambiverted. And I just thought they were sleazy opportunities to be like, hey, I have this really fancy pen, or this house is up for sale. Do you want to buy this? And I just got so much value. And I feel more, I want to help you out as the person that I'm connecting with. I would
Sure.
rather that then you help me, even though I do want help. But I find more passion in that, and in being able to help others, and finding I may not be able to help you right now in what you're asking, but I can maybe down the line go ahead and refer you on for a project.
Yeah. Oh, that I feel the same way that you do about networking. And it was a struggle for me. Like I could be in an event by myself as long as I knew that I
Yeah.
would know at least one or two people in the room. So if I suddenly got uncomfortable, I could say, "Oh, there's Jennifer over there. I'm going to go talk to her."
Mhm.
Um, but then at the one and only podcast conference I've ever been to, which was about 2 weeks before the pandemic hit everything, was here in LA, and I went with a colleague of mine from not just exactly from the day job, but she's a vendor that I know from my day job. But I was, sharing this with her, like, yeah, I'm not good at this networking thing. It makes me really anxious. I'm glad we're going here together. And she said something like, you know what? I used to be like that too. But then I would just make sure I always asked this one question of everybody when I would meet them. And I
Hmm.
would say, well, what brought you here? To this event, this conference, this whatever. And I was like, I really like that because it's not having to you could get a variety of answers, but it's not very intrusive and it doesn't necessarily require a huge investment back if you don't like the answer. So I started using that and I found it made it so much easier to talk to people. And I thought that was such a fun question. So I've started using that.
Yeah.
When I can. I mean, obviously everything's been virtual since
Mhm.
for a year now. But anyway, that's that. Now, is your are you is has your theme park opened back up yet, or are you guys still closed?
Yeah, no, we've been open back up until June because I'm in Florida. So we kind of like open quickly over here, and it's just been progressively since last June to like this spring break season.
Yeah,
Doing The parks are doing very, very well. And you can tell people are just like, get me out of the house.
right. It's so true. It is so true. Um, okay, so Rita, where can people find you if they want to hire you, follow you on social, learn all your tips and tricks and strategies? Where do we find you on the web?
Yeah, on the entrepreneur side, you can find me at Take the Helm V, like Victor, BS. And that stands for Virtual Business Solutions. So Take the Helm. I'm on Instagram and I'm also on Facebook. And that's where I put a lot of my entrepreneur tips. And that's where some of the snippets from my podcast for the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur will be as well.
Perfect. And we'll put links to both shows in the show notes so that everybody can come listen. And when you do listen to Rita's show, make sure you give her a 5-star rating and review so that her show can get more visibility out there. We have been chatting today with Rita Perez. And again, thank you so much for carving time to be on God's Side Hustle. And everybody will catch up with you in next week's downloaded episode that's not downloaded yet, but you know what I'm talking about. And have a lovely week.
Thank you.